Assalamu alaikum, guys. It's Zara here. Episode 5 of MissHeard. This one is a very eye-opening episode. We speak about how certain influential people in show business have taken a different turn in life. They have stepped away from the industry and have decided to turn back to Allah. That is one really interesting thing we talk about. It also leads into a very, very powerful conversation between me and Hafsa about the misrepresentation, the underrepresentation of black people, and what Hafsa goes through being a black Muslim woman in society.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the episode. We go through quite a few different topics and we talk about a bit of news, we talk about a bit of past, we talk about a little bit of everything. But yeah, let's get into the episode.
This is episode 5 of MissHeard. Enjoy. Hafsa.
Yes, here we are, episode 5. How are you, Zara?
Yeah, really, really good. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. I am just checking to set it up on call, just getting everything ready for episodes.
As well, a little backup.
You're enjoying your Pret hot chocolate.
I am.
I love
Pret.
Pret
In there.
more than any other coffee shops.
No. I don't agree.
Really?
No.
I like Pret.
The only reason why I like Pret is because right now I have a free subscription. So
yeah, but that's what I like about them. They give back.
That is true. Though,
they have a lot of free subscriptions. Yeah, come on.
To be fair, yes, that's very true. But also at the same time, I don't like the taste of their drinks very much. So there's also that.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Their ice drinks are not great. Their smoothies are really nice though, and their food is really good.
Don't even get me started on the ice drinks. I'm so sorry, but I'm just not a fan.
I'm
not a fan.
I had it
of the ice drinks.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think they're lacking what we like to call flavor.
Yeah, it tastes like cardboard.
Yep. It's completely flat. We don't like this. Like ice. I was gonna say ice and coffee,
with
which sounds
hint
really
of cardboard.
silly, but like it's like very no.
Okay, so what is going on in the world right now? Because we know there's a lot going on in the world right now.
There is a lot. We just had, in the context of when we're recording this, then yesterday we had a little announcement, which means that we are coming out of this lockdown that we are currently in.
I wish there was a button. The audience.
Like
right.
like the background. But one time somebody told me that how they've recorded these sounds like years ago. So if you think about it, you're listening to like laughs of like people that are probably not alive anymore, which really creeps me out for some reason, because they've like
why would you do that to me? We're listening to the dead people laughing, right?
When somebody told me that, I was like,
that is wrong.
Is so weird.
That is wrong. Did they give consent for their laugh to be used years after their passing? Probably not.
No, but it's just quite interesting, isn't that?
Wow. Okay. Moving back to
moving back to the present time.
Moving back to the present times.
Yeah. What was I talking about? Yeah. So
so we're out of lockdown.
We're out of lockdown.
We're
coming out of lockdown, which means we're returning to work. Unfortunately, the furlough has ended. We're going back to our actual jobs. We're going to be actually working. Sad times, but also at the same time, I think it would be nice for a lot of people to return back to normality a little bit. Because I know that speaking to a lot of people, like family and friends and stuff, I think this lockdown, especially the second one, has hit people because it's cold, so you don't want to go anywhere outside. Like before, when it was summer, I think it was a bit different. People were like got a bit creative. They had like picnics. They went out with their friends. Me and my friends did like a cute picnic outside. But then now it's cold. There's literally everything shut. There's not really anywhere to go outdoorsy. Nobody really wants to get out. And so I think staying at home for like a whole month, especially for people who aren't doing other things. Like for me, I still go to uni. We still go to Arabic. I'm still out of my house a couple of days of the week. But some people are just home the whole time. And I think
working in the winter is hard because doesn't everybody leave when it's dark, come back when it's dark, Yeah,
my sister literally was working back-to-back shifts.
Never.
Yeah. Because my sister was working back-to-back shifts, she fully like at the end of like doing all of her shifts, she said that during 2 weeks she saw daylight once. Because when it was daylight, she was at work. because she goes in at like, let's say she starts work at 7:30, she's leaving at 7:30, so the whole time she's in a building, there's no windows like that in the center of the hospital, so all your light is artificial. And then when she's leaving, it's dark. When she's coming in, it's dark because the sun hasn't risen, because she's leaving the house at 6 o'clock in the morning. So she was like, it's been 2 weeks and I have not seen daylight. And I was like, that's very tragic. Very tragic. But yeah, it's just crazy that's actually the reality of many people.
So everyone's going back to work very soon, back to their normal lives. I mean, some people will be still working from home because that was how their employer said that's how it's going to be until you're ready to come back, which is nice. I think it's nice that some employers are given that option. Work at home until you're ready. You know, that's quite nice. Yeah,
because it also gives light to the fact that you don't actually necessarily always need an office. Like, even for one of my sister's friends, her whole entire workforce is all at home until January. Even regardless of the lockdowns that happened, they have not gone back to the office. So then it kind of just gave light to the fact that you don't actually need an office to do their job. They could do it from home. But then when they did like a poll,
a lot of employers realized that their employees could actually work from home. But yeah, so we wanted to touch on some breaking news. Well, why don't you start? Because I know you've got something that you want to tell me. So Hafsa said to me, Zara, I've got something for you this episode. I'm not going to tell you, and you're going to have to wait. And I've waited. I think I've been pretty patient.
It's not that big of a deal, but it's something
you wanted to share. She wanted
because it was an interesting story.
What happened?
So I'm sure a lot of you are aware of what happened. Like, I think it was a couple months back. From my understanding of what I remember, I think it was like the last lockdown. But I can't remember. Anyway, the point is that not too long ago, then there was an incident that took place at Regent's Park Masjid. I don't know if anyone remembers. And I think it was one of the imams or one of the people at the masjid who was injured by another man who came, and he was stabbed into his neck.
I think it was the imam. Yeah.
So this man was 70 years old as well, but alhamdulillah, he's out of hospital now. I think he actually returned the day after. So his injury could have been catastrophic, because everybody knows if you hit that artery in the neck, it's a very, very different story, and they would have been dealing with a very, very different charge. But the man that was responsible for that incident actually then said that he wants to go to prison as a result of that, to actually memorize the Quran, which I thought was really interesting.
Wow.
But I was
really,
I don't know, I couldn't really understand it.
So the guy who stabbed, he stabbed, right?
Yeah.
So the guy who stabbed the imam in Regent's Park Mosque earlier this year, now saying he wants to go to prison because he wants to kind of have that isolation period and memorize the Quran.
Yeah, I thought it was really like I thought it was quite amazing, like that he wants to do that, and he wants to, memorize the Quran, and as a result of the incident that has happened, that's something that he wants to do. So it was
definitely a result of what he did. Most likely a result of what
I believe so, from my understanding. The story, like, when you get a paper, because they're not going to put that on the headlines that somebody wants to memorize the Quran. So it was like in the newspaper in like a really short column. So it was a very short story, maybe about 3 or 4 sentences. So it didn't probably give the whole story that could have been, explained. But I was a bit, the only reason why it took me back again and I was a bit confused is because of the fact that, from my understanding, the man that did that was a British like white Muslim convert. So I was confused. I was like, was this like, did he do it, like, is it something that came as a result of this incident, or is he just saying, do you know what, I need to own up to my actions? Or is he, I didn't really understand it because it was only 3 or 4 lines, but I found it quite interesting that he wants to now go to have that isolation to memorize the Quran, because there's a lot of time when they speak about like prison, prisoners and felons who go to prison and they come out and they've learned so much about the deen, and some of them revert to Islam and things like that, which was quite interesting.
So the Muslim revert.
So he's a revert, right?
He's a revert.
Yeah, okay.
Who stabbed the prayer leader, so the imam at the mosque, has now begged for a jail sentence so that he can learn the Quran from start to finish.
Yeah.
Wow, this is okay, right? So that's insane.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it?
And doesn't that just go to show
like the power of Islam? Yeah, but at the same time, that's why it confused me, because he's already Muslim. But maybe it's because
Well, obviously we don't know
We don't know
Allah knows the intentions behind why he went and did that action, why he went and did what he did, committed that crime. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think because there's so much gaps in the story, then it was slightly confusing, and I was just a bit taken aback by it. But it's quite interesting that he's now begging for that jail sentence because he wants that time alone to kind of memorize the Quran. Maybe he just doesn't want any other distractions, but Allah alam.
So when he was in front of the courts, I believe that the judge wanted to order him to be made subject of a hospital order.
Yeah, for like a psychiatric
kind of unit, kind of be a part of that. He said, I want a prison sentence. I do not want a hospital order.
Yeah.
He wants to learn the Quran off by heart. What an interesting story. Wow. I'm honestly shocked. That's why I'm so speechless right now.
Yeah, same.
Which is the worst thing for a podcast to show. I am speechless. No, but because I'm just shocked at how someone could, change their ways. But then we had a really kind of cool conversation about how people turn back to Allah at a time where they're at their peak of a certain situation.
Yeah.
And that brings us on to another showbiz kind of topic with the very famous Halima.
Yeah.
Who is, if nobody knows who this lady is, she has signed to a modeling agency. I think it's MG. Oh, I don't want to get that wrong. She's signed to it's AMG modeling agency. It's a huge modeling agency. They recruit a bunch of women for modeling. So this is a lot of famous people that kind of join this agency, and they become really big. They do catwalk shows, they do fashion shows, they do fashion week in New York, all these things. She was the first one of the first hijab wearing models, a Somali model. She's was a Somali refugee. Joined the industry, became very big for it, but the one thing that she always said in her interviews was that she was very something that brought a lot of light and a lot of kind of recognition for her was the fact that she was refusing to give up her hijab for the sake of her job. She was like, whatever it is, I'm not going to take my hijab off. My hair's always going to be covered. I'm going to do this modestly, but I want to smash this career, right? She wanted to go into modeling. Now, what happened was that today she came out with a whole bunch of realizations, information, and she said, hey, look, yes, I've been in this industry for years. However, I believe that I have allowed my industry and my career of modeling to overtake what really matters and my true purpose.
Yeah.
So what happened? She has been doing a lot of shoots. She's done Vogue Arabia, she's done loads of magazine shoots, she's done it all, basically been in every kind of fashion show. But what she felt was that people were actually very kind of oblivious to her at the time, mocking her hijab, because she did an advertisement with a denim jeans company. So denim jeans wanted to shoot her, kind of do the photography, do the shoot for their own campaign. And what did they do? Because they said that she said she wanted to cover her hair and always give models, they tried to find creative ways for her to cover her hair, and they put jeans on her head, right, to cover her hair but still make it look fashionable. And now she's starting to realize, you know what, they're actually mocking my hijab. Like, they're mocking, even though I want to do this whole career business, I want to be a model, this isn't it, What do you think about her story? Because she's been doing this for years, and not only that, she's not really seen anything wrong about what she was doing, and so many other people didn't see what she was doing wrong. They thought she was actually a really amazing representation of Muslim women because she still went for her career. But now she's saying, I was never happy with what I was doing in the first place.
Yeah, I think it was such an interesting, because I read it as soon as I saw you post about it and talk about it. I read it myself, and I thought it was so amazing, like the realizations that she had and like the reflection that she was having on like her whole journey of being a model and being a Muslim woman. But what was particularly interesting to me was the impact she said her mother and like her mother's words had on her, because I thought that is something that literally everyone can relate to, you know, your mum giving you advice on things and everything. And I thought it was so beautiful that she was talking about like being in lockdown with her mum and getting that advice from her mum and just speaking to her, and that's what gave her all these realizations, and the high level that she put her mother's words at, which it took a particular effect on me. But I just thought, you know, it's so interesting because I think it's something that everyone can relate to, like even with basic things that you do. You know, sometimes you're just very passionate about something and somebody might advise you to, you know, I think you should change the color about that, or change how you're doing this, or give you advice just generally about anything, Islamic or not Islamic, but just give you advice. And you might just be so passionate about what you're doing and you see the vision of what you want to do that you may not necessarily want to take that advice on, which is her situation and what she was trying to explain about her mum, you know, being like, you know, don't do the modeling, don't do this, don't do X, Y, and Z. And then her reflecting on that and being like, do you know what, like my mum was telling me this the whole entire time. But yeah, that particular part about the story is what I found particularly interesting. Yeah, because she her mum told her this a long time ago. She said, Deen over dunya, you know, if you're going to do this modeling thing, don't forget your purpose, don't forget who you are. And to us, it didn't seem like she did forget her purpose, because she was still doing everything in a modest way. She had her hijab, she never took her hijab off. And then she admitted, she said, if I kept going down this path with all these shoots, with all the modeling, with everything that I'm doing, they were slowly, that the industry basically was slowly going to change me to the point that I was eventually going to take it off. And that's what she said. So she came to a realization that if I keep going down this, I'm going to lose myself 100%. And which means she already felt herself being lost, you know. She already had that feeling of, I'm going down a very dangerous path. But for someone to publicly admit that their whole career, can you imagine how much she's built up? She's built everything. She's built this whole persona. People love her because of her background. People love how different she is. She's had a bunch of interviews, and she always talk, and the one thing they always talk about is how diverse she is. And then she actually openly said, well, what is diverse about what I'm doing? Because am I not just trying to fit into what they want? Yeah. Am I not just, yes, okay, my skin color is different. Yes, okay, I wear hijab, but you are molding me into a version of a Muslim woman that you want. And I thought, wow, I read it and I thought, wow, you know, and people really truly believe their purpose at the peak of a situation. And she is at the peak of her career. So for her to be like, this isn't me anymore, that is a huge stance. Could you imagine the amount of people that have probably relied on her and probably need her for things? And she said, that is the point. I don't need them, they need me. In order for them to prove that their company is diverse, they call me. In order to prove that they represent Muslim women and they have space for black women in their company, they call me. They need me. They ask me to come and represent. What do I need them for? You know, so she said, I don't need them. And we have to look at that, and we have to think, in a situation like that, we need Allah, right? And we need to please Allah. And that's what she says. She said, I felt as if I'm not giving Allah my due rights. I'm not, you know, and she says she felt the happiest when she was in environments where she was surrounded by her sisters and people that were close to Allah and people that were on deen and stuff. And she said she was closest, felt more herself and more true to her identity when she was with her family. And again, with her mum was the one who was saying from the beginning, you know, think about this. And she goes, years later did I realize what my mum was trying to tell me, what she meant. Yeah, it's quite interesting, to be honest, because it's something that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, and it's a lot of advice that people give you, even in, like, you know, those basic phrases like show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are, because you don't realize those effects that those people can have around you. And she was around those people that were uplifting her and that were, you know, around the deen and things like that, and that's why she felt, you know, most happiest and most close to Allah during those times. So yeah, I agree. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to in one way or another.
She said even her non-Muslim assistant, so the kind of like her PA, who actually would set up all her meetings, set up all her photo shoots and everything, so the non-Muslim girl she was working with, who's always by her side, she was also saying, Halima, this isn't you. Like, this isn't your true identity. I know you, and I've been working for you since the beginning, and I know what you started out as. You started out with wearing your hijab the way you preferred, you know, covering your chest and all sorts. And over time, she did end up kind of changing her look. And if you go through her story, you'd see maybe the kind of changes that she went through, which maybe someone would think, oh, but that is the career. You know, you do end up wearing fashionable stuff. You do wear quirky things because that's the career that you're into. You're supposed to model that company. But her assistant even said, you haven't stayed true to your roots in this situation. And because she loved she did, and, you know, admitted in fact herself that she loved the industry and loved what it brought to her, she wasn't seeing what then behind the scenes, and, you know, most importantly, what she was losing. So I think now she's at a stage where, look, she's built her career, she's got kind of a stable foundation, mashallah, she just became a homeowner, all these things. And maybe she's just thinking, you know what, I don't want to continue down this path. And what do we do when we feel like, have you ever been in a situation when you feel like you're going down a path and you're like, I can't, this needs to end, you know, like, I don't want to continue down this path anymore. And how do you change your path? You know what I mean? How do you change it? Because you know that you're not giving Allah his due rights.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, even when she mentioned about how the spaces that we all want to go into are not actually made for us. Like, if you think about it, all these spaces were built off of, like, people who look nothing like us, nothing to do with our religion. None of these spaces were created like that. A lot of things that we see nowadays are all commercialized. But what we have to remember is that that's why a lot of people have started this notion of, instead of trying to enter the space that wasn't made for you, create your own space. And I like that concept, because I think it's something where, like, we have so many people who are so talented within our own communities, and we have so much, you know, good that can come from our own communities that can still be in the line of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So instead of us trying to be like, I want to get into this space and I want to be amongst these people and I want them to, you know, accommodate to my ways, which they may not want to do. Because you might try that. You might, like, for example, she might go into a shoot and she might be like, do you know what? I want to wear my jilbab and my hijab how it is, but I want to do the shoot. And they might be like, sorry, that's not okay. We're not okay with that. But instead of us turning around and being like, okay, we will then sacrifice X, Y, and Z to please you. Instead, we should be like, do you know what? I want to please Allah, so I'm going to create a space where people can still, you know, be amongst their careers and do what it is that they want to do, you know, whether it's whatever space, financial spaces, digital spaces, marketing spaces, you know, medical spaces, still be amongst the spaces and the careers that they want to go into, but do it in a way that is pleasing to Allah. And it's something that people even talk about, even after everything that happened with like the whole Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people are talking about creating spaces for ethnic minorities yourself, because the spaces that are made now don't really cater for ethnic minorities. So it's one of those things where it's like, instead of us trying to mold ourselves to be pleasing to these people who don't really care for your needs, how about creating that space for yourself and then allowing people who look like you, who feel like you, who face the same challenges as you, to work together to create something that is pleasing to Allah and that also works within what you want to see. So I think that's something so interesting, because it motivates us all to work our way up so that people that come after us won't have to deal with the same situations. Why don't we create, you know, marketing spaces that are led by Muslim women, so that the Muslim women that come after us don't have to be like, oh, do you know what, I want to get this job, or I want to do this thing.
We've broken that wall.
Let's break those walls, let's break those boundaries, so that we can work hard for the people that will come after us, so that they won't, one day there won't be a Muslim girl who's like, I want to do this career and I want to, you know, I want to get this job, but they don't want me how I am. So should I, you know, that dilemma of, you know, should I sacrifice, you know, what is important to me and, you know, my deen and all these things which you don't want to do, or should I just stay true to myself and please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then get what is written for me. But it was interesting because even on Freshly Grounded, they were speaking about this, and it was one of the lives that they did with oh my god, how am I forgetting his name? Oh my god, I can't remember his name. It'll probably come to me. Anyway, but essentially he was talking about the fact that if you wake up in the morning and all you think about is the dunya, and that's all you think about when you're getting up in the morning, dunya, then poverty, I think it was that poverty will come to you, and the things that, you know, all these things that you're thinking about and whatever. may not necessarily be what's written for you, but if you're thinking about the akhirah when you get up, then Allah will bless you with the good of this life. So it was
so
it was along those lines.
The two eyes, yeah.
Can't remember the
so
exact
all
hadith,
that, no matter
but
what you have, all you see will you. So what it is that if you think about the akhirah, if you're grateful for everything, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it so that you see richness, so that whatever you do, whatever you have, you always be content. You always be content with what you have, whether it's a little, whether it's a lot, and Allah will inshallah grant you so much richness. And that could even be in the kind of physical wealth, or it can just be that you feel you are always wealthy even if you don't have much. And it's true. And also we need to like really reinstate this notion that if we base our goals, our careers, our jobs around, okay, is this job something where I'm going to please Allah? Is this something that, if I go for it, I am not going to compromise my deen? Like if I take this job, and that's something we really have to think about when we go for different opportunities. The first question we should ask ourselves is, by taking this career, by taking this opportunity, by taking this work experience, this internship, whatever it is, am I having to compromise my deen for it? And if the question is yes, then then what you're also going to find is, okay, well then there's no barakah in what I'm doing, and it won't be, yes, it may be successful to the eye, and it might be, you're doing it, but eventually you'll find in the long term there will be no reward in that. So let's bear that in mind when we're taking opportunities, when we're building our careers, when we're building our lives. All this, yes, okay, maybe this will benefit me here for a little bit in terms of like what I can buy with this money. Like, because we're talking about jobs that are probably very high up, and say someone comes to you with a job that is literally more than what you could ever imagine. The wealth is insane, but it's a job that it's not pleasing to Allah, and that you are so overwhelmed by what you've just been presented with, but then can you think about what Allah will present you with on the day of judgment, when you didn't take that opportunity and you chose something else because you knew that opportunity that was given to you in the worldly life was not something that was pleasing to Allah, and you chose otherwise? What reward would you rather have? I think we all know that. I know we all know the answer to that in our hearts, and maybe we don't like to admit it, but what reward would you rather have?
You'd rather have the reward of the akhirah. It's so true, and it's so interesting because I remember growing up and my dad always used to be like to me, you need to work hard so that you are in a position where the society that you are in needs you more than you need the society that you are in.
100%.
And it's so true, especially when it comes to the discrimination and things like that, like Islamophobia, racism, whatever it is that you feel like you're going to face in that workplace. Do you not think if you were the best in your field, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter if you want to do tahajjud. It doesn't matter if you want to pray every sunnah at that workplace. They will take you on because they know they need your expertise. They need your skills. They know you're bringing something to the table that they cannot refuse. No matter what benefits you need to take from them. If you're asking for 10K more than they were willing to provide for that salary, they will be able to give it to you because you have those skills and expertise that nobody else can match. And so that's why it's something where even us as Muslim, we need to strive to have that excellence in everything that we're doing. Because if you yourself have those expertise and you have those skills that the jobs are looking for, they will be willing to take you as the Muslim that you are. Do not be willing to give up what is important to you in your deen and what is pleasing to Allah for the sake of the dunya. Why do that? Because whatever's written for you is going to happen, and whatever the plan that Allah has for you is the right plan. So if you just say to yourself, do you know what, I have worked so hard in my life, I know that this job is something that I can excel in. Be confident in yourself, roll into that job and be like, do you know what, no, I need to pray my prayers, this is a requirement of me. Take it or leave it. Do you know what I mean? But it's also, again, something where we need to work to be in a position where we're okay with declining jobs, or we're okay with being in those positions.
We need to be so much more confident in ourselves.
So much more confident,
and do you really think that if you turn down an opportunity because it's not something that's benefiting you or pleasing to Allah, that Allah won't give you something just better?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
I come to you, I give you an opportunity, and you just think, Zara, you know what, that's not for me, that's not what I want, that's not going to benefit me, and that's not going to please Allah. If I take that opportunity, you be confident in saying no. that doesn't align with who I am. There are billions and billions of people in this world, and you are not that one of those billions to take an opportunity that is going to kind of make you compromise your afterlife. And it is your afterlife. It is your you. It is you. Like, you know, you will leave this world. You will have to answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yourself. You have to questions to answer. That is you. So you be really careful in the decisions that you make here, and please don't think that turning down an opportunity, not you know, what am I trying to say, like, basically, if you turn down an opportunity, please don't think that that is the end of everything, that is the end of the world. It really isn't. It really isn't. And because Allah will give you so much more.
Yes, it's so true. Because, you know, when you give up something for the sake of Allah, Allah will replace it with something so much better. So it's just a matter of that sabr that you need to have in that situation, where it's like, do you know what, I'm doing this for the sake of Allah. You know, forget these people that want to give me this job. It's because it's going to be so loud. But I it's, forget, I don't know what I was saying now. Yeah, forget all these people that want to give you this job, and just remember the fact that you're doing this for the sake of Allah, and that if you do something for the sake of Allah and give that up, Allah is going to replace it with something so much better for you. And just don't doubt that at all. Yeah.
And I think this really relates to the whole Halima was a really, really good representation for this story and kind of what we're touching on today, because she's realized that, you know, this isn't for me. And there's a lot of people in showbiz, I don't know if you've seen recently, a lot of people coming forward saying that the industry that they're in, what the industry has made them do. Because don't forget that when you're in an industry, they're going to expect things from you. And take the show business industry for an example. You are required to, you know, be out there, you know, and sometimes when you're in a, say you are like an actress or someone who's quite famous in that regard, there are things that are expected of you, and because you're surrounded by so many people in that industry, you do feel overwhelmed and more likely to be like, okay, like, sure, you know, and take the opportunities that they throw at you, knowing in your heart, this isn't what I want, this isn't what I'm trying to do, this isn't where I want my career to be. And I don't know if you've seen a lot of actresses in the Bollywood industry who have now come out and said, I was really unhappy in my industry. I was really unhappy in what I was doing. I didn't want to be so drowned in the industry. I think we forget the fact that when you see an opportunity, you're like, yeah, amazing, like a job. We see a job like, yeah, amazing. The job description looks amazing, absolutely perfect. Then you get the job, and then you're gassed because you've got the job, and then you're hyped up because there's people that are seeing you so highly and regarding you so highly in your profession because, you know, you aced that interview, and then now your family are happy because you've got a really good job. But no one knows when you are there in that workplace that you are hating it because you're drowning yourself in a place that you know what, I don't feel right here. I don't feel right here. And when you don't feel right there, then that's when the sadness comes in. And that is a sign from Allah when you feel sad in a place that you shouldn't be. A very good sign, because it means that Allah is trying to show you, or trying to make you feel in your heart that you know, that's Allah's mercy when you are in a situation you don't feel happy, right? Like, we know that. And that is your time to take that step and to step away. And that's what the kind of actresses were doing as well. So they stepped away. And that actress who then left the showbiz industry for the sake of Allah, and has now, you know, she now, alhamdulillah, she wears hijab, and she's practicing, and she has said that anybody who wants to contact me for anything to do with the industry, please do not. And Allah granted her a very, very pious spouse. So now she's married to a mufti, I believe. And everything that she said is now based around the sake of Allah, which is what we need to strive for. And there's people that are in these massive industries who have done it. You know, can you imagine their situation? Their life is built on a certain way, and now they've stepped back and said, nah, this isn't it. And why can't we do that? Yeah,
because Allah says that He loves those that repent to Him. So if you're, no matter what situation that you're in, it doesn't matter about society, it doesn't matter about what other people's opinions are going to be, it doesn't matter about your family or your friends. What really matters is the fact that you know that Allah will forgive you for anything that you've done. So, like, you know, if you he is the most merciful, essentially. So if you have made a mistake and you've done something, you know, that you're not happy with, just go back to Allah and always turn back to him, because it's never too late. It doesn't matter at what point you are in your life. It doesn't matter if you're in the end of your life, beginning of your life, no matter what position that you're in, just always remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for you.
Yeah. And it raised the question to me today that, do you think maybe, obviously we don't know, you know, these kind of things, but it does pose the question to maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave these people their fame and their wealth so that they were at a place, an influential status, so that when they did turn back to Allah, could you imagine the amount of people that would follow?
Yeah.
So someone like Halima, if maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her that fame and gave her that, like, you know, that level of influence, because she's a big influencer. She has a lot of people that listen to her and follow her and, you know, respect her work and things. So for her to be in that situation and then realize, I need to turn back to Allah, I need to do what is best for me, I need to do what's best for my deen, could you imagine the influence around that? You know, there's a reason why people have certain in order to benefit other people.
Yeah, so true. There's a wisdom behind everything that happened, you know, and the way in which it happens. Maybe it's just what was best for you, Allahu alam, but it's true, there might be various reasons as to why it happened for her in that way. And likewise, whatever happens in your life, maybe there's a reason that thing is going to bring you closer to somebody, or closer to Allah, you know, closer to somebody that can bring you closer to Allah. But yeah, it's true, we never know.
We need to really watch our actions and watch our steps, don't we? And also do as you know, they say, do as we say. So do as you say. So what you say, make sure that you are a reflection of what you preach.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. But on the topic of news, and we sound like a bit of a news station today, don't we? news. Over to you, Hafsa. Okay, let's touch on this. The Sainsbury's advert. You saw it?
Yep, I saw it.
And what did you think of it? So should we give a backstory? You want to explain?
You give the backstory.
You want me to explain the backstory? Yeah. Every kind of around the Christmas period, the supermarkets have their adverts that go out, and this one was a viral advert, which people might have seen anywhere on any kind of social media platforms or anything. Viral, not sure why, because it is just kind of like,
I haven't seen the actual video though. Yeah,
so it's just basically a black family enjoying time together as a family. I think it's something to do with, like, Sainsbury's were trying to advertise their products, so they were advertising, I don't know, I think it was like gravy or something like that, and they had this whole advert, but people have really caused a storm over the fact that it was a black family in the advert. Are we really living in a time where the UK is going to Twitter wars because there's a black family being advertised?
Yeah, it's just, to be honest, it's not that surprising, if I'm being entirely honest.
But doesn't that pose a question? Is the UK still that racist?
But the thing is that I'm just not even not surprised. When I saw it was like one of those things. I was like, oh yeah, another day, another day.
Is this really viral? Like, is this really going to cause? You know, why are we having this conversation?
Yeah,
you know?
I think the thing is that when it comes to racism in the UK, I don't think it's anything new. And I think for a lot of people who, especially for black individuals, I think it's something that you're kind of just used to. And it's weird because I was thinking about this the other day, and I remember my dad, you know, we were having a conversation. He was like, I don't actually think there's ever going to be a time, you know, where there won't be any racism or discrimination. He was like, you're literally dreaming if you think that there's going to be a time where everyone's going to be so equal and there's going to be no discrimination and no racism. And I was like, I think that's a bit pessimistic.
So why does he take that viewpoint? What was his kind of thoughts?
He was basically explaining that you had racism and discrimination over 1,000 years ago, you know, at the time of the prophets. You saw discrimination and you saw people talking about that happening, and stories and examples of that, no matter what the discrimination was, or people talking about it. And he was like, and it's going to happen all the way until the end of the time. And he said, you know, and even me and my sister were talking about it, and I guess it's that thing of the capitalization of no matter what who discrimination's happening to, politicians or people who want to rise capitalize off of the discrimination of whatever minority there is. And so you even think about those examples, like what happened with Hitler and the Jews. When you talk about any type of discrimination that has taken place, it's always that that scenario where essentially if you want to rise, you will talk about there being an issue associated with a minority group or with a set of people, so that people will then get the idea that they need to prosecute this set of people. They need to work against the set of people because they are going to make us fall. And it's that scare and that fear that they instill in people that they then work off of. Because even now, I'm sure as black people, a lot of people experience different things, but I deeped how crazy it is when I literally went to the shops. And I am now 20 years old. Like, you know, I've lived, you know, whatever many years of life. Obviously, I'm not that old, but it's such a weird thing because I was literally giving change to the person in the store. And when I give people change in the store, I kind of give it in a way where I'm like not touching them. And I thought to myself, why do I do that? And I remember because like people have scenarios where they will there's been scenarios of people, you know, who will give change to the shopkeeper. You know, that person most likely 99% of the time is not a black person, and then they like feel disgusted because of like, you know, touching a black person or whatever. And that's like scenarios that have happened to people of our ancestors and things like that. So I was like, how weird is it that's probably people probably don't care, you know, when I'm giving them that change or whatever. They might just, you know, it might be anything. It might be like they just, you know, they don't want to touch you, whatever, you know, corona, whatever it is. They might not care at all if you touch them. But it's that weird thing that has been instilled in me to give somebody change in a way that I'm not touching them just because I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. But I was like, that is actually so messed up that's something that still runs through my mind, just like subconsciously without me even thinking about it.
Wow.
But it's so true, because that feeling of, you know, inferiority or that feeling of discrimination is something that has been instilled in you from when you're young.
It's conditioned.
It's conditioned because it's experiences that you have when you're a child. Nobody really notices these things. You play with whoever, you do whatever, you know, nobody's going to discriminate against a little child. But as you grow up, the more experiences you have,
you fall into a box.
The more you fall into a box, and the more you feel that kind of inferiority complex. And my sister was talking about the fact that in society they've kind of already instilled that inferiority into black people. It's the reason why, you know, in Senegal, for example, they'll have like situations of like bleaching creams which will like be sold so widely and do so well, but it's because of an internal complex of you feeling inferior, just being yourself as a normal black person. But it's society,
the skin that you're born into.
The skin that you're born into, and it's society that instills these things into you without you even thinking that the concept of me just doing my daily actions of giving somebody change, I've already have subconscious and unconscious actions that I do to take place as myself. It's like, for example, how for me, when I go into placement and things like that, you know, you'll speak in a certain way because you don't want them to think you're like that rowdy black girl that's just walked into the
really
hospital. Really opinionated. So when they'll talk about like certain topics, you'll feel like, oh, you know, maybe I shouldn't speak on this and things like that. But there's so many different like things that you just do without even thinking about them, just because of the like do you know what I'm trying to say? I don't know if I'm explaining well. I waffle so much.
No, but I think also it's a level of, if you don't feel like you can speak on a topic because you don't want to be perceived as someone that's being overbearing, notice that there's power in that, you know, and you are someone who is confidently yourself. And sometimes when you're confident, that's what makes people feel intimidated.
Yeah, because there's so many levels to it as well. Because, for example, if I am to stand up for myself, like let's say somebody does something to me which is unjust or is unjust? English, help me. One of them. Anyway,
unjust.
Let's just go.
What if I said that and I was wrong?
I'll just go with unjust. I'll just go with unjust. It sounds right. We'll just stick with that.
So watch how we get blasted in the comments.
Let's just say somebody is something which I think is unjust,
which is not just.
Which is not just. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
For me to stand up for myself, not only are people like, oh my god, like especially with women, it already has another thing. They'll be like, oh my god, like when a woman stands up for herself and feels confident, it's like, oh, like this.
You are are
women,
a minority within a minority within a minority.
Literally,
let's put it that way.
You know,
that
people
is
have
you.
so many preconceived ideas of what I should be like and what I am like and what, you know, my type is like. So when you, like, automatically when a woman, especially a black woman, stands up for themselves, people are just like, oh my God, like, she's so rude, she has no manners, she's so feisty, or whatever it is. They'll have so many associations with your character because of society's norms of what this person is like. But I might just be expressing an opinion. So there's so many layers to it. But it's sad to say that. I won't lie. I think that when people experience these things, it's not really a shock to us anymore. It's just more of like a, you know, again, like it's just another scenario, and it's another scenario.
So we had this conversation not so long ago, did we have, so where we were in Starbucks and we sat and we were drinking our drinks, and I said to you, Hafsa, how does it feel to be what society might view as a triple threat? And we had this conversation of you being a triple threat. And for those listening that might not understand what I mean, Hafsa is a young black Muslim woman, hijab wearing Muslim woman,
dark skinned woman as well. That's a whole other layer to it.
Yeah, she's from Senegalese, and
even my country's a minority, man. Nobody knows what Senegal is.
Yeah, there's a lot to be learned. And this is something that we need to not shy away from talking about. So what does it mean for you to be, you know, what society might feel to be a triple threat? You're a Muslim, you're a dark-skinned Muslim woman, young Muslim woman.
I'm not gonna lie, I just live my life. It's not even like, I don't even really have an answer for it, because I think for me, I don't think, oh, like, oh my God, today I'm a black Muslim woman, oh my God. You know, it's not really something that I consciously think about. But in your day-to-day,
in your kind of, in your life, what you experience, obviously we know that there is so much discrimination in so many ways, in so many places. And you do have a very strong opinion, as you should, on a lot of things. Do you feel like in the workplace that you sometimes feel like, you know what, it's best that I stay silent? Do you ever have that in your head where you're like, you have to think twice before expressing an opinion?
I think, I don't even know how to answer this. I think when it comes to just being who I am, I think you are in a constant battle with yourself, because a lot of the time, and I am talking literally almost every day, there'll be an ignorant comment or an ignorant feeling, or someone will treat you in a way where it's like, you know, that's made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Whether it's people talking about colorism, that happens a lot. You know, they'll be like, oh, like, you know, they'll say something like really ignorant, like, oh, that person's so dark, or this person's so, you know, you'll hear such ignorant comments, and so you're in a position where you're like, I don't know whether to say something, and then I'm that like opinionated rowdy black girl, which already has associations to your personality, or whether if you don't say something, it's an injustice to yourself, because you're now leaving that person.
You're allowing them to do that.
You allow them to do that. And at the same time, it's like, is it even my place? Should I be going around doing up education? Like, why is that my job? Why should I have to go around and educate the whole world about how to treat me as a normal human being, and how to not say ignorant things, and how to not be ignorant? Why should that be my job? Why can I not just live my life? Why do I have to go around and start educating people on life? That's not my job. Like, but then you also automatically feel obliged to do that, because
because
like,
people don't know how to.
Yeah, but then it's you're in so many different minds, and so sometimes a situation will happen, you're like, oh, I should have said something, and so you'll go home and be like, oh, I'm so annoyed at myself for not speaking up. But at the same time, it's like, when you do speak up, people will then, you know, feel like you should be held accountable in one way or another, like, you know, oh, I didn't mean that, that's not what I meant, you know, don't get so rowdy, don't get so offended, oh my God, you're being so sensitive, you know, you'll get all those comments coming through. So I think in terms of that aspect, it's just, you're in so many different minds, you don't know what to do, you don't know what the right
but when people say you're being so
comments.
Sensitive, how do you even deal with someone saying that you're too sensitive? Because that's not, I think if they say something and you've taken it in a certain way, for you to take it in a certain way, which means there is something wrong with their comment.
Yeah.
You've got to look at that layer. I am offended for a reason. And I mean, you don't go around saying that you're offended for, you know, certain things that and I know you, and I know that for someone to say something that has upset you or offend you, it has a layer to it that you think isn't cool.
Yeah.
And people need to really look into what they say, and is what I said cool, and would I accept that for myself? People need to see, would I accept that for myself? So why should I make that comment if I wouldn't like that to me?
Because it's one of those things where there's so many layers to racism and discrimination now that it's like I can't even keep up anymore, because people won't understand why you might feel strongly about certain things or why you might dislike certain things. But like sometimes I just want to get up, you know, have breakfast, go out, go to work, come back without it being like me going out. Like I'm not like, I can't be Superwoman going around and doing up, you know, education and, you know, fixing every problem in the world. And so it's that kind of burden on your head where you don't know how to kind of approach it. For me personally, I think I've come to the point where I've just been like, do you know what? I'm on a journey for me to just educate myself in every realm, because when it comes to me even talking about discrimination, racism, such as that thing that I was speaking about, that experience of me, you know, giving change to people, things like that, I don't even know why I feel like that. And I don't know what the stories are behind that. I don't know what the stories are of my ancestors. I don't know what the stories are behind racism, because it goes so deep. And so that's a responsibility I want to take upon myself, to educate myself about what the situation is essentially, and how deep it goes, because the more I learn about it, the more I understand why certain things take place. Because similarly to how Halima was talking about her experience in a modeling agency and having to adjust to that, that is an experience that you see within ethnic minorities. You will be like, we now have representation of black people because we now have this one, you know, ethnically ambiguous girl with looser curls who has, you know, whatever, lighter skin, whatever it is, you know, they'll count that as like, we now have, you know, no discrimination. We represent you. Yeah. But it's the fact that you want people who are closer and closer and closer to that, you know, Eurocentric features. They don't, you know, look too African. They don't look too black, quote unquote. You know, they don't look too dark, whatever the situation is. And so people will be like, oh, why aren't you grateful about X, Y, and Z? Why aren't you happy about the, you know, the representation that you have right now? But it's also a concept
of... But it's a molded representation.
Yeah, it's like if somebody was to come with their full-on afro hair and their African quote-unquote features, the classic, you know, features, in abbreviated commas, because what does that even mean? But if somebody was to come and look so African or too African, they wouldn't want those people on the front covers of their magazines, because it's not the accepted version of black people. So it runs so deep. If I was to talk about it, it will be here forever.
I think it's so deeply rooted to the point that people are no longer open-eyed to it. I think it's so deeply rooted that it has become blurred vision, and things can happen and you can see that's not cool. Like that doesn't make sense to me, and you don't know why other people can't see it that way. Like, why doesn't anyone understand why that isn't okay? But it's because it's such a deeply rooted matter. But you're right. This is definitely something that needs a lot of... it needs a lot of time.
It's something I'm still even figuring out myself. I don't think I have the knowledge. I don't think I have the information for me to even speak on an issue, even as a black person. There's just so much I don't know about my own history for me to even speak. I don't have the ability to. But it's good that you're giving that personal perspective. This is just, it's a personal, because you live your life. And I think what's really interesting and what's amazing about you is that you are all of these things. There's so many layers to who you are. You know, even you just taking into account the fact that you're a Muslim woman, the fact that you are black, and that you are a woman, and that you, all these different layers to you, right? All these different layers, and that is just your appearance. Like, could you imagine when we go inner? You know, there's so many things to you, but take that, I think, as a responsibility, that if you show what you can do and what you're capable of and your powers, and in terms of, like, you know, what you are, so you know, who is Hafsa? She is an educated woman. She is so grounded. She is humble. She is, you know, all these things. You are altering people's perceptions, and you are one person out of many, many people in this world who have that power to alter people's perceptions, which is really nice. Because you are kind of
people have these connotations, people have these views, people haven't, but you're like, no, I am not fitting into your connotations, I'm not fitting into what you think, and this is why I'm going to show you who I am, and that's good. So never like doubt yourself. I think that's a really important fact to make. You know, never doubt your kind of capabilities and stuff, and the fact that you're so strong, even when you talk about the NHS and you talk about how you feel that it's underrepresented. That's what also you're doing a dissertation on, I believe, as well. Kind of like that whole element. Stay true in what you believe in, all those things.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I even remember sitting down and thinking in my room, and I was like, there's too much that I want to change in the world. Like, it's so overwhelming to feel like everything about your identity is being attacked. You know, you see the discrimination of people who are Muslim, you see the discrimination of people who are black, you see the discrimination of people who are dark skinned within an own black community. There is internal colorism that happens in a black community, and likewise there is black non-Muslims who are also against black Muslims. There's so many layers to the discrimination that my people face, even in terms of in being an African person. Forget above everything else, forget everything about me. You literally had your culture stripped from you. There's people who are black people who are in America, they don't even know where they come from. Like, it's very sad that this is the situation. Like, there's just so many things that internally it genuinely hurts you. Like the amount of discrimination that your people have faced. There's people in, you know, why is it that the Republic of Congo has some of the best materials and resources? It's one of the poorest countries. Why is that okay? Why is that okay? So there's so much that I read about and learn about. That's why I have to kind of like find the balance between educating myself and also just being deeply hurt. Because
but I think we all need to be educated. 100%. I think we all need to educate ourselves on this whole, and it is an issue. It is a global issue. This is a very, very humanitarian issue. I need to educate myself. You know, my people need to educate themselves. Other people, everybody needs to. It's not just you who needs to educate you on your history, because we all need to understand how we can help another group of people. We need to know how to do that, and I think we all fail in that aspect when it comes to that. We're not educating ourselves enough, and we need to.
Yeah, because I think for each person that is in my position, as like an African, black, dark-skinned Muslim woman, there's so much that I want to do, because I was speaking to my dad about the things that I want to achieve in my life. We were just having a conversation, and I was even talking about, you know, when people want to go back home and they want to like build something for their societies and bring their people up, and like, if I want to rise, what can I do to help the people of my own country rise? And we're talking about that situation. And then I was also talking about the fact that, you know, I want to do stuff for the Muslim girls in this, you know, young Muslim girls. I feel like there's an underrepresentation of them in this, in the place that I live in London. And I want to do stuff to like kind of build a community of Muslim girls, for there to be something for theirs to fall back on, for there to be something where it's like they have a community of people who understand them and want them to like practice their deen. Likewise, you know, there's, you know, talking about Quran, even wanting to, if you want to learn the Quran as a Muslim woman in London, you know, you face different barriers than a Muslim man, because there's less female teachers, there's less availability to that. So that's another thing that frustrates me, and where I'm like, okay, you know, like, we need to build a community for Muslim women, for them to have access to this education and be in an equal footing with men. They aren't the only ones who should be educated in their deen. We should be educated in our deen. We should be, you know, becoming hafidah of Quran. We should be in those situations as well. So that's something that I want to do. And then there's also things that I want to do, like in terms of like social, you know, on a social aspect. I want the people who are in underprivileged societies in the areas that I live in, for them to be able to rise. I wanted to do so. It's just like, how can I do this all in one life? So it's just, sometimes it just gets a bit overwhelming, because you're like, I want to change so much about the situation I'm in, but how can I do that? How can I change what I see? Because you face so much. Like, how is it I'm only 20 I've faced so many issues in my life, but it's like, how are you going to change those things? Because we cannot keep continuing to have years upon years upon years. The civil rights movement happened, and you wouldn't have think it happened, you know, people think this happened years and years ago, but it was less than 100 years ago that these people faced this. You know, people think slavery happened thousands of years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And so I cannot we cannot keep having generation after generation after generation coming into society to face the same issues I faced. Where is the progress? Because of the institutionalized racism that we face, because of the complete exploitation of people in Africa, you face these situations because even within our own countries, there's corruption within the people. How are you, like, you can form, like, even trying to build something in your own country, there is literally corruption that happens in your own country, where people who are also Senegalese, also black in your own country, will exploit you to try and, you know, gain money from you or gain access from you. You might build something and they might steal from you or do whatever. So it's like there's so much frustration around the situation because you want to do so much, but you don't know how to start. You don't know where to start. You don't know which situation holds more importance, and you're just one person. So for me, I'm such a, like, I don't even know how to describe my personality type, but for me, when I see something or read something that upsets me or that I don't think is fair, it literally will, like, I think about it for so long,
and it ignites this, you know, passion within you that wants to do something to change. But that is such a good way to be. I think that's an amazing way to be. And also, let's take this platform, for example. Something like MissHeard is one step closer to us educating more people, right?
Yeah.
And you know how you say, how can I make a difference? How can, you know, as in you, Hafsa, like, how can Hafsa make a difference? How can Hafsa change everything? Sometimes as people, we need to be more open-eyed and be like, well, the one way Hafsa will achieve these kind of things if we as people stop being so ignorant. So yes, you're right in saying that you have to try and build this thing, but also don't forget that the people around you, including different races, including different religions, including different minorities, have to look into what you're going through and what your people go through and make it an easier thing, you know? So although you want to change and you want to do so many things, which is amazing, it also is down to people around you that need to open their eyes and realize the kind of discrimination that's happening. So I think it's definitely a working thing for absolutely everyone to look at what everything that you've just said, and to try and think, okay, how can we make it easier for you? How can we change these things with you? You know, yeah, I think it's such a group thing.
100%. I think it's one of those things where as you work together as a community, you can build things. So I think it's one thing where, like, you know, I want people who are like me. I want people who look like me. I want people to experience the same things as me, to rise and then be in a position where we can then unite and we have that ability to then build our own people up. Because I don't want it to be a situation where my nephew, now he's going to be 3 soon, inshallah. I don't want it to be a situation where he turns out to be 20 years old in 17 years from now and is facing the exact same problems I am, because then I will feel internally as my own person, I failed as my own person, because I need to in some ways be active within my own communities. I need to in some ways build up my own community so that at least there's one step closer for us to gain, you know, that no, I don't even know, like, being ourselves, being equals
sense
in society.
Yeah,
I want it to be one day where my nephew does not have to, you know, decide to have to be an educating person for everyone around them, and to not be made to feel uncomfortable and hear ignorant comments left, right and center about race, about religion, about females, who want to navigate the spaces that they're in. It's enough is enough, honestly.
You want him to be able
tiring.
to look around him and see a whole lot of platforms and a whole lot of places that make him feel comfortable,
and see people that look like you,
and people that have just been so successful in what they've done. No, but I agree. 100%. I think it's something that, and it definitely, this conversation hasn't done it any justice, because we need a lot more time in order for this, you know. I don't think one episode is ever enough to discuss kind of the issues that are going on. But yeah, so there are so many, especially this year. Look at this year alone, how many chances we've had to open our eyes and to realize what is really happening.
But yeah, I think it's so true, because
but it goes back to the kind of beginning again. So obviously, I know a lot of people have said, even on Twitter and stuff, people were saying, okay, so we had the summer where we cared about black people, we had the summer where we cared about Black Lives Matter. So what do we go back to? What is next? Like, what is now? Okay, so we had our protest, we did everything, you know, and have we not learned how to progress as a community? Have we not learned because of things such as something very minor, in terms of the problems that are going in terms of all the other things that are going on with black people, something as small as like a media kind of thing, like the advert, is just people have said, have we learnt nothing? Like, we're going back to these ignorant comments, we're going back to people saying, and people are saying, you know, why is it that overpopulating the media is causing such an uproar, but when we're overpopulating the prisons and we're overpopulating it's not an issue? So it's like, you know, these are the comments that were kind of being made. What do you think about those comments? Because there was a comment that was made about, why are people really kind of upset that we have an overrepresentation right now in the media in terms of being publicized in a really amazing way on adverts and things like that, and the showing the united foundation of a black family, but when we're overpopulated in the worst kind of places, it's overlooked.
In the most frank way, I don't really care that much. I don't care about any of the comments that people had to make about that video. It's just like, it's one of those things where you just brush it off. I genuinely, in the most honest way, I don't think I care that much about the comments that people made about that video. And like that person said in that comment, it's one of those things where, like you said, there's people who are facing, you know, completely like unproportional levels of black people in prisons, unproportional levels of black people who are being discriminated against, you know, who are being stopped and searched. All these kind of things are issues that black people face on a daily basis. You know, the sentences that black people get for similar crimes that white people commit are longer. You know, the picture that people will always paint of black people is completely different to that of their white counterparts. You know, there's a reason why, you know, they'll see like a black person walking down the road, a young black guy, and they might be internally afraid. And that's because of so many different layers of racism that happens within our society. So the comments that people make, honestly, they don't faze me. They don't faze me if people make ignorant comments day after day after day, because it's just something that it's just like, okay, like if you don't have any education, what you're saying, I genuinely do not care about. You have no basis to what you're saying. It is a lack of education, though, isn't it? It all roots down to that. Yeah, if you choose to be ignorant, that's your choice. Your problem, and yeah. I frankly do not really care that much.
We make dua for you.
Yeah, literally, we make dua for you that inshallah at one point you will have the ability to speak with your words with kindness and with education, because if you don't, then it's not really, I honestly, I have nothing else to say. It's something that you face on so many different levels. Like, that is just such a minor of somebody just saying an ignorant comment after an advert. It's such a minor form of racism in comparison to everything else that they face.
But what it shows is quite impactful. So what it shows, I think, yes, the comment itself is very minor in terms of the distribution, like as in the comment itself, but what it shows of people is something so much deeper, which is that this isn't something that has gone away. This isn't something that people are
but I didn't think it would, to be honest. I really didn't think. Yeah. I didn't think, oh yeah, now that Black Lives Matter movement, we're not going to have a single racist person who resides in the whole of the world. We're not going to ever face racism again. This is it. We're done. Course. I didn't think that it's a much bigger solution that needs to come out of there's a much bigger solution that needs to come out of everything. And it's a shame that everything that's gone on, people losing genuine lives, you know, is not enough for people to understand. Because it's still happening now. That's the thing. That's why it's like, I think for a lot of people, especially for black people, I know definitely for myself, I can't speak for everybody else. After that whole situation happens, you feel genuinely sad, because for other people, they have the privilege of looking from the outside in. This is something where they can empathize and sympathize, but it's not something that they can internalize. Because for the people who are actually facing these issues, this is just like, it's your own people. It's different when it's yourself. It's completely different when it's yourself. And so you're genuinely sad, you know, depressed, whatever it is, you feel such an overwhelming feeling of sadness by seeing your own people being treated so badly, and then have the justification of such like, sometimes I don't even have the words to explain it, but it's just, I cannot even speak right now. But
I think you're right, and you hit on a good point in the fact that most people can't internalize that whole situation, and it's and most people looking on the outside have genuinely just sympathized with it, and
because even from that thing that was happening, which people might be a bit confused about, but from that advert being produced, and from people then commenting, you know, ignorant comments, you know, having a flat comment to reply and be like, oh my God, like, you're just so uneducated, and, you know, white people this and white people that, and whatever comments that people have of that, it's just like, I don't know how to explain what I want to say, but essentially, it's not necessarily a helpful comment is probably the best way that I can
to tell someone they're uneducated for making that comment.
Yeah, because it's just like, I don't have the correct words to explain it, but as in, like, the comments that the replies that people have is also from a point of how can I explain this? I don't have the words to explain it, but my point is that it's just words. It's just words. Like, there's so much more that needs to happen than just words. And so even from a point of privilege for people to say,
there's no impact in telling people that they're uneducated when they make that comment, because they have said that comment and they feel strongly about what they have said, and then turning around and saying to me that you feel they're uneducated is really not gonna change what they just said, because they said it with their chest, basically. You know, they made that comment very strongly, and for you to turn around and say, oh, I don't think you're educated, and that's not a nice comment to make, is not gonna affect them, basically. And there needs to be more done. There needs to be more action required.
I'm gonna try and find what I'm talking about, because somebody had a good explanation of what I'm trying to say, and I feel like I'm not giving it justice at all. So I'm gonna try and find it. Okay, I don't think I'm going to find it today, but essentially somebody had a good explanation of what I'm trying to talk about. Somebody had a good explanation of what I'm trying to talk about. So hopefully, inshallah,
we'll get it up on the social media. We'll get it up on for people to
basically, the point is that we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go on this journey to feeling like the world is equal and just, and who knows if that day will ever come, but hopefully, inshallah, we can work towards that and work to better the societies that we live in, and hopefully that won't be a reality for. And
we should always stand up for what is right. That is what Islam teaches us as well, that we should always stand up for what is right, and we shouldn't shy away from these kind of issues. And especially if we don't experience this, and this is for people that aren't black, who don't feel like they internalize the problems that are going on. Never use that as an excuse to not stand up for what is right. And not even if you feel like you're not educated enough to stand up for it, then let's work towards silently educating ourselves, you know. So, and it's okay to say that you don't feel educated on a certain thing because you haven't empathized with what black people go through. Take this time to educate, take this time to learn. Let's come out of this as better people. Everything that's gone on this year should really prove to us that there's a whole lot of learning to be done. And I think that's a really nice way for us to wrap up our episode 5. We have done, let's wrap up episode 5 today. But no, some really, really interesting conversations that went on today. Definitely eye-openers. And Hafsa, again, it was a pleasure talking to you, as always. And let's end this with, let's all do our part to try and make this world a better place.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's something where it's like, stay positive in the journey that you're taking. Always try your best to do the best of what's within your ability. Do what you can, and don't overburden yourself with like the 100 things that you want to do. Is something that and that's advice to myself first and foremost, then to everybody else. I think just do what you can, stay positive, work as hard as you can, and don't allow the words of ignorant people to faze you.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always with you.
Yep.
And that is what we need to remember. And the injustice that you feel in this world and what you feel is making you uncomfortable and isn't good, you will reap the rewards, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So yeah, that is episode 5 of MissHeard. And we are out. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.